立法會主席。
The President. Members, please remain standing while the Chief Executive enters the chamber. The Chief Executive. Chief Executive, welcome to the meeting. The Chief Executive will first address the Council. President, members, the purpose of me proposing the Chief Executive interactive exchange question and answer session is because that as we have patriots administering Hong Kong and an executive government, we would like to create more value for our work. I'm grateful to members for their active participation in the last interactive exchange question and answer session, and the effect of the session has been proven. It was an opportunity for me to directly hear your views that will help me to consider my governance better. At the last session, we consider the core of the spirits of the two congresses as well, two sessions as well as the 20th National Congress report. So we explore certain subjects today. I would like to explore or have exchanges with members on another three subjects in the 20th National Congress report. The first one is the cultural and creative industries development. Second one is rule of law development, and the third one is emergency response and safety. The first session exploring the development of culture and creative industries that will bring about immense opportunities to the development of the country. The report, the 20th report, proposes building cultural confidence and strength, so that we could enhance our creative capacity. The Hong Kong is positioned as the East-West Center for international cultural exchange, so that will allow Hong Kong to take part in the development of the country in this respect, and we could also make our contribution. It will allow us to leverage on our advantage to further promote our cultural confidence and strength. So this is of crucial importance to the development of Hong Kong. The second session is rule of law, talents, and also the emergency response and safety. Well, that's in the 20th National Congress report. It proposes that there need to advance the rule of law in Hong Kong, in particular in relation to the advancement of the rule of law in domestic and foreign related affairs. So in Hong Kong, we have the advantage of legal talent. So can we leverage on such advantage to consolidate our position in Hong Kong in this respect? And we could also be the connector between the country and the rest of the world in terms of legal exchanges. And then on emergency response and safety, the 20th Congress report proposes that we need to enhance our capacity for disaster prevention, mitigation and relief, and for responding to and providing support during major public emergencies. We also need to strengthen regional emergency response capacity. In Hong Kong, we have years of experience, and we've built up our capacity in relation to emergency response. The cross-departmental teams have the expertise and the training and experience. So can we further leverage on that advantage so that we could create a joint emergency response system for the GBA, and there could be a joint prevention and control. We could complement each other's strengths, and so we could enhance our capacity in handling emergencies. So these are the 3 topics in the 20th Congress report. At the last interactive exchange session, we talk about safety, stability, and also development and happiness. So this is to carry on from those themes, and today we're considering these topics because these are areas where we have an advantage and there will be immense development opportunities for Hong Kong. So I hope members will consider the macro picture and we could have good exchange here, and then I'll be able to work with you to build a better Hong Kong. The session will comprise 2 parts. The details are set out in the appendix to the script. Members have been informed that the speaking time limit for each member is 2 minutes. Members may put questions to the Chief Executive or express their views or both when they speak. The topic of the first part is the development of the arts and culture industry. Members who wish to speak in this part, please press the request to speak button. Chief Executive, please speak on part 1 first. President, the topic of part 1 is cultural and creative industries development is based on Chapter 8 of the 20th National Congress report. This chapter is about building cultural confidence and strength, enhancing the soft cultural power of the country, and also the appeal of Chinese culture. So there's a need to develop the cultural and creative industries. This is about putting the social well-being first. This is and then we need to also have a better market system. And then the report also says that we have to make sure there is positive interplay of culture and tourism, and advance deeper integration of the 2 sectors. We also need to extend the reach and appeal of Chinese civilization, and we need to accelerate the development of China's discourse and narrative systems, better tell China's stories, and make China's voice heard. Now, we have set up the Mega Arts and Cultural Events Fund. That's what's announced in the policy address. This will provide opportunities for the local industries, and also this is to promote art, cultural exchange between Hong Kong and the rest of the world that will promote the development of arts and culture as a whole. For example, the Basel Hong Kong Art Central 2023 brought in some 66,000 visitors and 40,000 visitors respectively. So this is a successful example of positive interplay of culture and tourism. Hong Kong is an international metropolis. We enjoy various advantages in particular where the East meets West. So we could showcase our cultural strengths on the international stage. And then we could also be the network for connecting the world and the mainland. Now we have world-class cultural facilities such as the M+ Museum and the Hong Kong Palace Museum. We also regularly host a Basel, Hong Kong, and other world-class mega events. In the 14th 5-year national plan, Hong Kong is positioned to be developed into the East meets West Center for International Cultural Exchange. So there is plenty of room for further development in Hong Kong in this respect. So I'd like to consult members on how we can leverage on our existing strengths and promote the development of the arts and culture industries. And how can we encourage investment in cultural and creative industries, and also make sure there is proper matching with local creative units and collaboration. Now, the 20th Congress report has important guiding reference for our development. So I would like to now hear members' views and also take your questions. Thank you. Mr. Yang Wing-Kit. Thank you. In the 1980s and 90s, Hong Kong was the pop culture center. Our music, our films and TV drama series had much influence on the whole of Asia. In fact, this pop culture remains influential. Now, after the resumption of normal travel, number of concerts were held in Hong Kong. I attended some of these concerts. These were concerts that were very popular among people in Asia. I saw many people coming from all the parts of Asia to Jackie Jones concerts and so on. Some actually went on the ferry wheel to watch the concert. So we do have such an advantage here in Hong Kong. Do we have any strategies, and do we have the funds for promoting concerts held by singers who have influence around Asia in Hong Kong, and so they could hold concerts in Hong Kong? Thank you. Mr. Rock Chen. Oh, sorry, you like to reply first? Yes. For concerts, they're important for promoting art, culture, and also tourism. Now, I see there are various concerts held in Hong Kong, in neighboring places. They're very popular in Hong Kong. We also have our own strength. But of course, we need to do more in terms of venues. In the policy address, I mentioned that we have a plan to develop our hardware. And on promoting other aspects of cultural and creative industries development, well, we have various funds and schemes to help the arts, to the culture and creative industries. For example, for films, we have the Film Development Fund. There are also the Create Smart schemes to promote creative industries. So we have regard to the needs of different cultural sectors, and there are policies and subsidies for them. Now, on the promotion of culture, and in particular, on the promotion of creative industries, how can we further promote this industry? How can we support the development of this industry? This is why I'm here. I'd like to hear your views on that. Now, in terms of hardware and funding, in terms of policy, we have the Culture Commission to promote development. There are also various proposals put forward. Now, on the promotion of arts and culture in the past, our effort was fragmented, but now there is the Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau overseeing everything. And then we have the Culture Commission. A blueprint will be formulated, so there will be a solid policy on promoting culture and arts. So please give us your views so that we could enrich the content of the blueprint. Thank you. Mr. Rock Chen. The West Kowloon Cultural District has world-class arts and cultural facilities, so we should make good use of that. We should invite international brands that have large collections of treasures and relics, and then they could come and stage exhibitions at M+ and Hong Kong Palace Museum. And then we should also host major functions. For example, Cartier held something similar some time ago in Hong Kong. And we should also encourage the inclusion of arts and cultural facilities in private developments. They could also include exhibition galleries and theaters in their private developments. And then we could make use of 3D techniques and other digital techniques for creating arts and cultural content. And also with the use of technology facilities, there could be a good interactive experience for people who visit these exhibitions, and there could be a whole production chain, on creation of software, content, curation, and everything. And then we must not forget that we must also promote local Chinese culture. Well, we have the International Dragon Boat race, which is a very successful example. We could also have international line dance competition, or international fire dragon dance competition during Mid-Autumn Festival. We could then bring more people who come to Hong Kong to enjoy such competitions, and this will allow such mega events to engage the youth better and also make them more international. Thank you.
Mr. Vincent Zhang. Thank you, Chief Executive. Last year, in your policy address, you launched a 10-year blueprint for development of cultural and arts facilities. So we will have more venues, and we've also got a mega fund for cultural events. This is a good beginning. Further on, we have to think about development of our creative industries. It is important that we have an industry chain so that we can attract talents, we can expand the audience and attract people to Hong Kong. Now we've got new landmarks for cultural facilities. The renovated Museum of Arts and M+ Museum and Palace Museum in WKCD. Many visitors come to Hong Kong with these new facilities. We've also be hosting the Hong Kong Macau GBA Cultural Festival. So many tourists are coming to Hong Kong. How we can better integrate our culture and tourism? Chief Executive. Thank you, President. We need to promote interplay of culture and tourism. So we have put tourism, sports, and also culture under one bureau. The purpose is to create synergy so that they can interplay among themselves. When it comes to cultural resources, we have a rich collection in Hong Kong. For instance, as mentioned by Mr. Zhang, we have the WKCD with M+ Museum and the Palace Museum. We attract loads of tourism to Hong Kong now. For the Palace Museum, over 1 million visitors have come to Hong Kong, and we are moving towards 3 million. Apart from these two landmarks in Hong Kong, we have also got other museums which are important in promoting history and culture. On various fronts for tourism and culture, we should make good use of our own brand name events. Very soon, we are going to host the Hong Kong Film Art, Hong Kong Performing Arts Market 2024, and very soon we will have a GBA cultural festival. Hong Kong is the host city. We can enrich the content, and they can advertise Hong Kong, and for sure we can merge tourism and cultural activities. We've got new itineraries. We have got eco-tourism. We have rich green resources in Hong Kong. And we've got historical itineraries. For instance, our history in the War of Resistance. And we have our country parks and geoparks. There are also blue itineraries. We can develop on various fronts. We can work together with other cities of GBA. For instance, in the Greater Bay Area. Now, I like Kung Fu. I can go to Foshan and Chaozhou, and there is the ancient city there. So multi-stopped itineraries can make Hong Kong more attractive. I visited different mainland cities. They are asking for the same. They want Hong Kong to group together with cities in the GBA so there can be multi-destinations in one tour. I think this is worthy of further exploration. We can merge culture and tourism in Hong Kong. We have a lot of attractions in Hong Kong. For instance, Long Zek and also the walled villages in the northern district, and we've also got historical and archaeological sites. They can all be put together. Mr. Kenneth Fok. Thank you, President. I thank the Chief Executive for the importance he attaches to tourism and culture. Now, I'd like to look at this from another perspective. I discussed with some organizers of Art Basel, and they have the view that Hong Kong can attract international investors to Hong Kong for art training in Hong Kong. Now, Hong Kong is, of course, an important city, and we have also a very comprehensive logistic resources. It is a really rich resource, and Hong Kong cannot be replaced in the short term. Now, for the cultural industry, we need many supporting facilities as a package. So we should develop our strengths and enhance them so that we can have industries out of them. Now, we position ourselves as an 8 international important centers. We are a financial center. I think art financing is there is plenty of room for development here for the country in terms of tourism, financing, etc. For arts and culture, we can have better art finance. We can relax our listing rules, encourage investment in arts enterprises so that we can have unicorns in the cultural sector. We're also an international INT center. In 2020, the country has got views on strategies for digitalization of culture and arts. In Hong Kong, we mainly focus on developing hardware. Now we can use big data to develop databases of Greater China so that people can use such data for secondary creation, for IP, etc. Time is limited. I hope the administration can consider the merging of our traditional industries and creativity. Now we focus on the cultural people, can finance, logistics, and traditional art INT people can work together to contribute to this sector. Thank you, Chief Executive. I understand that Mr. Kenneth Falk is a member of the Cultural Commission. I thank him for his contribution. He has some very insightful views. I am happy to have opinions from people like Mr. Kenneth Falk because he is so passionate in promoting cultural development in Hong Kong. I can feel his enthusiasm. I'm confident that your involvement in the Culture Commission can give us very good views. People are saying that it's important we have the right people to promote culture. Now you are such a handsome man. I believe you can help us to promote culture in Hong Kong. The Commission has a few important missions, and that is to promote a blueprint for development of arts and creative industries. This is exactly relevant to what Mr. Kenneth Fox said just now. The reason why I want to exchange views with the Council on this theme is about financing. Can we help the financing and listing of relevant enterprises? Yes, we can discuss this because we have INT companies given special arrangements for their listing. As for how we can help the cultural sector as well, yes, we can explore that. The first thing is to introduce various possibilities of investment so that the business sector and investment company can consider. Because the arts and cultural sector is very different from other industries. It is so rich and so diverse. And enterprises can grow from a small company, from a solo operator, from a single creator. And if we just consider listing facilitation for them, perhaps it is a bit premature, but we should see how we can match the business sector or investors with our arts and creative people. How can we make good use of our investment fund? We will focus on strategic industries, and for diversity development, we have another approach, and we should also safeguard intellectual property rights. Everyone attaches importance to their IP rights after creation. They want to safeguard their rights and further development. So we have a platform We have an international authorization platform. Under the Trade Development Council, we've organized various exhibitions to allow the business sectors to match with arts creative people, and we can strengthen our intellectual property platform. We can enhance our strength in the promotion of arts and culture. As regards whether we need the coordination of the chief executive, the CS4A or deputy CS4A, well, if need be, that can be done. Whether it should be a permanent structure waits to be seen. We have standing organizations chaired by the CS4A or the deputy CS4A. For instance, we have set up a task force for enhancing district governance. That is a standing body. But also we have ad hoc bodies. For instance, to ban the import of seafood or products from Japan due to their discharge of radioactive or wastewater into the sea. Well, such work is being coordinated by the Chief Secretary for Administration. It is important that we have ownership in the community. When people feel that they have ownership, then their drive is strong. For a high-level steering committee chaired by the CS4A, yes, it is a good thing. But I have to strengthen the ownership of individual bureaus so that they can be more involved. So high-level task force chaired or coordinated by the CS4A or deputy CS4A will be set up when the need arises. Dr. Tan Yue Hang. Thank you, President. Good morning, Chief Executive. Recently, Hong Kong has got a few cultural exchange sessions. We have got music, concerts, and also exhibitions of national treasures. Now, all these were sponsored, organized by China-owned enterprises or Chinese enterprises. These enterprises have contributed to Hong Kong, and they have also played a role in building arts and culture in Hong Kong. So, Chief Executive, for Chinese enterprises, in terms of their role in promoting arts and culture in Hong Kong, what is your expectations for them? Chief Executive, I thank Dr. Tang for giving me the opportunity to speak in Putonghua for the first time in this council. I'll try my best, and do correct me if you see fit. Now, expectations for Chinese enterprises, well, I have very high expectations for them. In 2019, we had the Black Cloud violence, and now in the development of Hong Kong, I'm of the view that Chinese enterprises have a great role to play in terms of provision of funds, setting up of network, and provision of talents, etc. So for the promotion of arts and culture, of course, Chinese enterprises can have major contribution. I've seen Chinese enterprises organizing very popular events, including concerts and exhibitions. I would like to hear from Dr. Tan in terms of network building. China enterprises have their strengths, and they have their strengths in resources and talents. And Chinese enterprises can leverage their strengths and advantages to promote the industrialization of arts and culture. Dr. Tan. Thank you, Chief Executive. On this, I've got two considerations. First, China enterprises should introduce overseas and mainland resources to Hong Kong in exhibitions and concerts and performances. In particular, they should introduce mainland cultural resources to Hong Kong, to our schools, to our community. We've got the M Plus Museum and the Palace Museum. These are major events. And then we've got schools and also civic venues. They can enrich our cultural exchange in Hong Kong. Chinese enterprises should be organizations to invite and to support and to participate in such events. Chinese enterprises should enhance their financial support for our cultural and performing organizations in Hong Kong. They should also introduce sizable cultural funds into Hong Kong. They should collaborate with local cultural organizations. They can set up cultural investment funds to enhance our community, and they can promote collaboration between Hong Kong and mainland performers, etc. Now, in 2024, we're going to have the GPA Arts and Culture Festival to be hosted in Hong Kong that can promote the integration of arts and finance. Thank you.
Mr. Kwok Wai Kung. Thank you, President. Good morning, Chief Executive. Now, the policy of importation of labor affects each and every sector in Hong Kong. So I believe I can raise this issue in relation to any industry. Now, before you consulted 89 groups on expanding the talent list, but then you did not consult a single labor union. It's the same case when you consider other importation of labor policies. Now, the FTU is all for the government development of our economy, and bringing in more diversity into our industry, so there will be more job opportunities for local residents. But now you are importing labor at all levels without any consensus of the labor sector. And also, there has not been adequate discussion in the community, and there's been no consensus among the public. A survey was conducted among frontline clerical and professional staff. 80% of those surveyed are against in expanding the importation of labor scheme and the exploitation of the talent list. Now, they are not objecting to that on the basis principle. They worry that their jobs will be lost, and then companies will no longer train local employees, so there will be fewer promotion opportunities for local employees. And also, their wages may not go up. In fact, they may even go down. And some are concerned that some industries will rely permanently on imported labor, so there's no room for local labor. Now, already it's a fait accompli, so the question is not whether we proceed with such measures, but rather is how we implement these measures properly. We need to make sure that local employees don't have concerns and are not affected. You need to explain your policies better, and also you need to prevent abuses and exploitation. So, Chief Executive, do you agree to what I've said? And also, can you make good use of the role of the labor sector and as a partner of the government, so you will make sure there is proper gatekeeping of these measures? Chief Executive. Thank you, President. Thank you, Mr. Kwok. Well, Mr. Kwok represents labor groups. You want to protect the interests of workers. Of course, I can appreciate that. Me too. I take very seriously the rights of workers, in particular local workers. You mentioned that we need to do better in explaining our policies so people will better understand the issues involved. I would like to take this opportunity to stress a few points. One, labor importation policy must always be based on putting local employment first. And also, the wage must not be lower than the median wage. This is to protect the income of local workers. And thirdly, we must enhance training of local workers. Now, we have increased the number of places for training and other vocational training. And we also need to make sure that there's a levy on every imported worker that will be used on training of local workers. So we take very seriously training of local workers. And another point is that now we are only importing labor that meets half of the vacancy, that fills half of the vacancies. And we still want to train local residents so we could fill the other vacancies, and the importations is about helping us enhance our competitiveness. And these are just short-term measures. They are not permanent measures. They are supplementary in nature, and there are quota places imposed. For example, for the 26 industries, we will just approve one application at a time. We don't just approve all applications. The Labor Department will be the gatekeeper. And on protecting the rights and interests of workers, both local and imported, that's important. So we have the relevant labor legislation to protect people working in Hong Kong. It doesn't matter whether they are local or imported workers. In any case, my focus is on local workers first. That is our policy. So local workers first. So that's why there is the legal protection to make sure there is equal treatment. But for other benefits and training opportunities, of course, they incline towards local residents. I'm very much grateful to Mr. Kwok on the role that local labor unions could play. Now, local unions, of course, take care of the interests of local workers, so you must do your job to see, to make sure that everything is done properly. Now, if there are any abuses, or if someone tries to collect fees unlawfully, or there's any deception involved, and that's non-compliance with the labor legislation, of course, we will not allow that. We'll make sure there's proper law enforcement. But these are short-term measures. Hopefully, they will help to address our labor shortage as soon as possible. At the same time, we must try to train local residents as far as possible. We need to offer more opportunities to local workers. We need to enhance the competitiveness of local workers. And if necessary, we will also like to train them in other new skills and so on. Thank you. Chief Executive, do you wish to deliver a concluding speech for part one? Thank you, President. I thank you for the opportunity, but I want to allow more time for interaction with members, so I will only speak at the end. Part one ends. The topics of part two are rule of law and talents and emergency response and safety. Members who wish to speak in this part, please press the request to speak button. Chief Executive, please speak on part two. Thank you. For the second topic, rule of law, talents, and emergency response and safety. Again, they're based on the 20th Congress report. Chapter 7 of the report states that we need to advance the rule of law in China. And it also stresses the importance that we must advance the rule of law in domestic and foreign related affairs in coordinated manner. We must also train talents. And then there's need to speed up the development, the building of a law of rule of law society. We need to work hard to make respecting learning about observing and applying the law common practice throughout society. Now, Hong Kong has a robust legal system. We also have strong legal talents. And common law system is aligned with legal systems in many parts of the world, and we are also an important arbitration seat, and we've also set up the mediation preparatory office for mediation facilities in Hong Kong. That is the Mediation Preparatory Office on the establishment of an international organization that's set up in Hong Kong recently. And then we would like to build our capacity. And so as China builds its legal capacity, they will have strong demands for legal talent. So I'd like to consult members as to whether Hong Kong should take advantage of our existing strengths. And then we could build ourselves into an international legal talent training center. And also we could become an arbitration center in Asia. Can we contribute to the development of rule of law in China, and then Hong Kong could realize its value as well, because Hong Kong has this unique advantage of being the connector between the mainland and the world. And then on emergency response and safety, now in the 20th anniversary, 20th progress report, there's the mention of the need to establish an overall safety and emergency response framework. Then the public safety system needs to be improved, and so on. Now, the SAR government has set up various emergency response plans, say, in relation to natural disasters, diarrhea incidents, and so on. Where there are also regular drills across departments, so that we make sure that we have the capacity to handle major emergencies. And also, we sent a rescue and search team to Turkey. In the beginning of the year, we managed to save 4 who were stranded under the debris. Now, so Hong Kong has the necessary expertise, experience, and training in emergency response, but then in terms of hardware, there are limitations. For example, a few years ago, Super Typhoon Mangkhut hit Hong Kong. A large number of trees collapsed, and the traffic was brought to a standstill. And the emergencies far exceeded the capacity of Hong Kong. For example, we did not have enough electric saws to to fell trees and so on. And then we also need to keep enhancing our hardware capacities, especially in terms of heavy equipment. So can Hong Kong leverage on our own advantage, and then we could build a joint prevention control mechanism with Greater Bay Area, so we could complement each other's strengths and build a joint emergency response system. And we have the expertise and the experience, and on the mainland they have large equipments. So perhaps then we could enhance our capacity to respond to major emergencies. Now, I am quoting the report, the 20th Congress report, so as to stimulate discussion with members. Mr. Ambrose Lam. Now, I also have considered what Hong Kong can do in promoting our contribution to the country's development or advancement on rule of law. Now we have a common law system. We invite overseas common law judges to sit on a court of final appeal, and so now Hong Kong has returned to motherland for 26 years, but then we are still very much in line with legal developments around the world. So certainly Hong Kong has the potential to become an international training base of talents for the international world and the mainland. Of course, in the past 3 decades, there have been much changes in the legal profession. Even in Hong Kong, there is much need for reforms so as to enhance the competitiveness of our lawyers and to nurture better talents. In terms of legal education, we do not have standardized admission system for legal students, and we don't have enough places in universities to train legal talents. Now, we've been in discussion with universities for 2 decades on how we could standardize the admission criteria, but then there's still no result. And we see mismatch. And then we want to train good legal talents. It's not just about university education. We need to have large legal firms that will have the capacity to train graduates into good lawyers. But then our model now is quite behind the times, and so that's why we are not competitive at all around the world. I and the law society are well aware of the problems. We try to address that, but there are many obstacles.
Chief Executive, I thank Mr. Lam for his views. I have heard similar views on other occasions. This is worthy of further consideration. We should help the legal sector and its practitioners to expand the capacity and expand their network. I welcome further information from Mr. Lam so that we can work together. I understand that Law Society is working on this. It has got new measures for promotion. I have seen progress in this regard. We can continue to work hard on this. Dr. Hui Simon Lee. Thank you, President. Good morning, Chief Executive. I fully agree with what you said. Hong Kong can be a training base for legal practitioners. On the training of legal talents, I have two views to make. First, as mentioned by Presidency, and in his 20th National Congress report, he recognized the status of the common law system because it is a platform for exchange and interaction in legal issues. Hong Kong is renowned in terms of its common law system, and Hong Kong can be a good promotion platform for telling good stories of the mainland. Now, the GBA is also an important connection for the Belt and Road countries. Now, we are focused on the Middle East and also Asia Pacific region. Our legal sector, however, has limited understanding of these areas. Now, we don't have enough knowledge of the legal system in the mainland, in the Middle East, and in other Southeast Asian countries. So I suggest we enhance our training support for our legal talents. For instance, we can have graduate programs in our universities. We can have research centers not focusing on common law. Now, we can have a law school focusing on statute law and other legal systems so that we can nurture talents. While we are upgrading and transforming our economy, but we lack talents. For instance, our shipping center is transforming, but we're not talking about the traditional logistics industry, rather financial and logistics and professional services. In 2022 and for under the Maritime and Aviation Training Fund, well, we've only trained about 30 people using this fund. This scale of operation cannot support our upgrading and transformation. In this area, we have limited law firms, only 23 law firms that can provide maritime law services. So we need to train talents in these areas. Thank you, Dr. Lee, for your views. Dr. Dennis Lam. Thank you, President. Good morning, Chief Executive. The central government and the Ministry of Health back in 2005 signed a collaboration agreement for tackling major public health incidents. There is a contingency and mutual support agreement signed. 18 years have elapsed. Two major issues have happened. First, pandemic, the COVID-19 that has plagued us for 3 years, and also a development of GBA. Now, the three areas activated the emergency mechanism for the tracing of cases and for mutual notification. This collaboration has played a very important role in prevention and also tackling of the epidemic. Now, we allow northbound and southbound traffic between Hong Kong and the GBA. We really have a 1 hour living circle. There is busy interflow between the GBA cities. So any major public incident event is going to affect our other cities. So I agree that we should set up a joint contingency mechanism for joint prevention and joint mitigation. The chief executive is very visionary. So are you going to review the 18-year-old emergency collaboration mechanism so that we can cope with major events in the future? Thank you. Chief Executive. Thank you, Dr. Lam. You mentioned the contingency mechanism. In fact, it's been reviewed. It was renewed or updated in 2018. So, just as what Dr. Lam said, we should keep reviewing and updating our mechanism. Well, in 2018, the public health emergency response mechanism was reviewed. That was the cooperation agreement on response mechanism for public health emergencies. It was signed and it was reviewed and updated in 2018. The mechanism was put to the test during the COVID-19 epidemic, and we have enhanced the mechanism during the period. After the fight against COVID-19, we have set up a communication mechanism in terms of data monitoring and exchange. We have a mechanism in terms of notification, tracing of cases, and also mutual support of resources and manpower and deployment. In the process, we put the mechanism to the test, and it was also strengthened with different health authorities of the mainland. The agreement was useful. We succeeded in fighting the epidemic, and for our emergency mechanism, we enhanced our own mechanisms and also enhanced collaboration. During the process, I would require relevant departments, in particular the Secretary for Health, to continue to liaise with his counterparts in the mainland to maintain good communication. Since we have enhanced the mechanism, has been most useful in controlling similar public health emergencies. We are very confident, and for the emergency capacity, tackling capacity, we'll not just talk about public health incidents, but major disasters such as typhoons, the Daya Bay, should there be a radioactive leak, we have a mechanism to tackle those incidents. So in addition to infectious disease and public health incidents, we'll also talk about coordination mechanism for other incidents. Professor, Mr. Shanghai Long, on Tuesday, I visited Hung Yun Wai border control point together with other members. Mankam Toll on Shamjang side had a subsidence problem, so I have checked with the Security Bureau. I understand that the Security Bureau and also the Transport and Logistics Bureau were able to contact the other side within a matter of 2 or 3 hours, and they were able to address the problem. And they diverted traffic to Hung Yun Wai. So we need to commend the departments for their efforts. Now, I was just referring to a minor case, but we have seen major incidents in the past 3 years of COVID-19. We really had to enhance our ability in coping with emergencies. For instance, Mr. He Sheng of Macau, he only heard about a border crossing from the media, and Macau has already got electronic quota for distribution of face masks and also supplies to fight the pandemic. And back then we were scrambling for face masks ourselves. So we have to be well prepared to fight natural disasters and public health incidents and crises. After 3 years of the epidemic, I'd like to know whether we have any improvement in the management measures. Now, we should have a joint prevention and mitigation mechanism with other cities of the GBA. I'm more concerned about internal collaboration and coordination with the government and mobilization of the community to help in these incidents. Thank you. Interdepartmental mobilization. Now, for the fifth wave of the epidemic, there were issues reviewed, and we have already strengthened the system. We have got the government-wide mobilization mechanism. We can, at any time, mobilize 3 to 5% of the civil service. For instance, if we mobilize 5% of the 180,000 civil service, 9,000 civil servants will be available to help in the coordination of response to major events. For most of the tasks, they do not special training. In major events, we are short of hands to answer phone calls, to operate simple computer systems, etc. Our civil servants should be more than competent to handle such tasks, and also the distribution of supplies and also people to help in the care of our community. We've enhanced our mobilization ability. We've also got care teams set up. They are important elements in the mechanism. I'm grateful to our care teams. They need some financial support from the government, but all members are very passionate and they're very conscientious and dedicated. They are even more dedicated than ordinary employees. They are very into their work. More important still, for any emergency mechanism, there must be well planned and proper drills ahead, and coordination is important because in a major incident, we need interdepartmental coordination. We have a 3-tier level. If the gravity is such that it can be dealt with by the district itself, it will be done by the district. If we need departmental coordination, then departments will be responsible. And for more serious incident, then our bureaus will be involved in our emergency coordination center. It is headed by the Security Bureau. For more important or serious incident, myself is responsible. Since I assumed office, I have set up a new command structure to tackle the epidemic. We have set up a commanding team. In light of actual circumstances, we will activate our new command structure. Now, if our planning and drilling efforts are sufficient, then our Security Bureau can use its coordination mechanism in tackling major events. But equipment is even more important. In tackling emergencies, we need both software and hardware. As I said in my address, we are short of hardware. If we can set up an emergency mechanism within the GBA that can help Hong Kong. After all, we've only got a population of 7 million compared to the 80 million in the whole of GBA. I'm sure they are better equipped than we are. And legal structure is important. We have the emergency regulations. I hope we don't have to invoke them, but all departments and bureaus have their respective powers, and they also be protected in terms of legal consequence and liability. If they act in goodwill, then they will be properly protected by the law. And I'm all ears to members if you have better suggestions for us.
Dr. Priscilla Leung. Now, in the 20th report, Congress report, President see that the rule of law is at the core of competitiveness of the country. He talked about rule of law for domestic and foreign related affairs, and also there must be international order maintained based on the United Nations institution. And then there's need to do proper training of legal talents, especially involving foreign-related affairs. And Hong Kong plays an important role in this development scheme. It is our honor. Now we have, we practice by trilingualism, and then I of course been working for the City University for 20 years. I was involved in the training of overseas judges, especially on international law. Now, many of these judges then would go back to their country to handle international cases. Their dream is to become judges of the United Nations. So I wonder if Hong Kong could also help to train these talents and help them join the selection process for UN judges. Chief Executive, do you have plans for that? Well, we have excellent legal talents. Dr. Priscilla Leung, you have been involved in legal work for decades. Many of the successful legal practitioners were your students, so congratulations to you. So in Hong Kong, we do have an abundance of legal talents. And there are existing mechanisms for civil servants to, be seconded to the UN or other international organizations. These programs have been working very well, and those organizations have actually asked us to extend the secondment of our colleagues at their organizations. That proves that they are doing good work there. Now, if our judges could join any international organizations, of course, I will fully support that. And we've actually read from the news that some mainland judges have also joined UN courts in relation to litigation and appeals. I've asked the Secretary for Justice to do some analysis for me about court rulings in Hong Kong. They were referenced in many court cases outside of Hong Kong. That means that these rulings are of high quality. So, but my question for Dr. Leung is, you mentioned that in terms of international law or common law, we have an advantage. So how can we leverage further on such an advantage? Apart from benefiting our own legal system, how can we also extend our reach to other parts of the world? Dr. Priscilla Leung. Now, President Xi says that it's important to build good team of legal talents. That's for the development of country in the new era. Now, in Hong Kong, we have 3 renowned law schools. Now, I've been teaching in one of the law schools for a long time. I believe for these 3 law schools, they must bear in mind one country, 2 systems principle and national development, and then they could support the mission of the country, and they can train talents that could contribute to both Hong Kong and the mainland. Now, local lawyers can now sit admission exams in the GPA, and then Hong Kong is the 3rd most preferred arbitration seats in the world. And there is also, of course, the preparatory office of has been set up for mediation, and so that's why we could actually promote Hong Kong in this respect. Now, in Hong Kong, we have large markets. We could actually attract more young talents to come to work in Hong Kong. So apart from allowing local legal practitioners to go to practice in the GBA, I hope the 3 law schools would work together to not just train talents, legal talents for Hong Kong and the mainland. They should also learn about Islamic laws and other laws, and then we will certainly be very competitive, and that then we will be able to become true international legal hub. Dr. Lam, you just inspired me. So it's about and a united effort that's very important. So we need to consolidate all the capacities in the legal sector, the two professional bodies, the universities, the government, and others that we have connection with. So it's important that we bring together all the talents. It's important. I think we should actually do that in all other fronts, so we could enhance our capacity and enhance the quality as well. Miss Elizabeth Court, while life is the most important, of course, I'm all for a joint emergency response system that will protect life and properties. Now, Mr. Chief Executive, you're an expert in this area. I could only share with you some of my views. I believe the government could work on 5 fronts. First, you could set up a regular communication mechanism with mainland authorities. And secondly, there could be a mechanism to share information. Now, we have a COP and also CSDI already in Hong Kong. So this could be linked to the Guangdong system in terms of emergency and disaster alert. This will ensure accuracy of information, and so there will be sharing of real-time information that's accurate. And thirdly, talent training. Now, there could be drills, of course. At the same time, there could be bases set up for training emergency talents, search and rescue talents. And fourthly, we need to have better storage capacities. So there could be green channel for the transportation of emergency supplies. And now, if we build this joint emergency response system, they could also promote the development of smart cities in GBA. Hong Kong could become the window for connecting to the rest of the world. And then in Hong Kong, we could set up an international platform. Now, in the GBA, there are now 3 emergency response platforms. In Guangzhou, they have this international humanitarian hub. And then in Chao Chao, there is another center. And then Jiangmen, there is new platform set up for. And so all these platforms together, they will link up different parts of the country and the world. And then they will have the capacity to work closely with Asia and other parts of the world, and together they could face the challenges of natural disasters and catastrophes. Now, the Middle East has built this international humanitarian city. This is something we could learn from as an experience, and I hope that we will be more committed and contribute more to the country's effort in promoting in enhancing our emergency response capacity. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Quat. Ms. Quat has been a member of the panel on security for many years. You are well versed with security affairs. So I'm sure the Security Bureau is able to do a better job with the input from Ms. Quat. Now, we are now actively working on a joint emergency response system, and what you suggested are very similar to what we're doing with this system. So we are trying to build such a system with the different authorities on the mainland. I understand the Secretary for Security has already been in communication with the counterparts on the mainland. And the mainland authorities are also interested in a joint mechanism in the GBA. The Secretary for Security will soon be attending a major meeting on the issue. We'll make an announcement when the details are out. Thank you. Mr. Gary Chen. Thank you. You propose setting up joint emergency response system that complements the strengths of different cities. Well, for nuclear incidents or terrorist attacks on the Hong Kong Joy Macau Bridge, there have been drills. But then for Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Macau, do not have cooperation mechanism for drills. If there should be a regional emergency, how can the three governments respond in a timely manner? For our search and rescue teams and facilities, how can they reach the scene at the first instance? Now, there are differences in the legal systems of the three places, how to make sure that they won't affect rescue efforts. Now, these are details, but they need to be worked out. So, Chief Executive, should you not take up discussion with the Guangdong and Macau governments as soon as possible on policies or individual incidents? Perhaps there could be drills and also response plans could be formulated in advance. Thank you. Chief Executive, well, Mr. Gary Chan has been the chairman of the panel on security for a long time, so that's why you're really discerning with your views. Yes, we do have that idea in mind. We know that for the joint mechanism, we need to also consider the laws of the three different places. So how can we make sure that it can be done? For example, for Zhengzheng Bay, say if unfortunately there's a major fire already, there is a joint firefighting plan in place that is a rescue first before notification, and that's the division of labor. For certain aspects, they're in line with our law, and then we could take up that responsibility. So if, say, there is certain equipment that must meet certain legal requirements before they can come to Hong Kong, we will prepare list mechanism so that will overcome the differences in our legal systems. So that's why we need such a mechanism to make sure that we could respond in time in accordance with the laws of the three places. For example, if there is a ship wreckage, we have already in place an emergency response plan, and mainland vessels could come into our waters to handle such case. So we've already thought about that. And then our common flying service could also help with rescue efforts in the GBA. It's been done before, actually. And if we take the experience of our search and rescue team in Turkey, that shows that when it comes to international rescue effort, as long as there are certain arrangements in advance, we could overcome the legal obstacles. Now, our rescue mission in Turkey was successful. The Fire Services Department in Hong Kong actually would like to apply to send medium-sized rescue team with the UN, and so they are applying for that, and then we will have the legal basis to take part in international rescue effort. And in any case, coming back to the three places, now there's plenty of room to overcome these issues, but we need to make a lot of advanced preparation. Thank you. Ms. Carmen Ken. Now, in the 20th Congress, National Congress report, you've already quoted from it in relation to promoting rule of law. Now, you say that we, as you mentioned, we have a robust legal system, we have good legal talents, and under the one country, two systems, we have the advantage of being backed by the mainland and being connected with the rest of the world. And we are the only city in the mainland that practices common law, so we could be aligned with common law jurisdictions elsewhere. So Hong Kong could definitely become training base for international legal talents, and we could consolidate our status and also contribute to the development of the country. So how can we do it? I think we need a high-level steering mechanism. For example, a steering committee led by the Secretary for Justice. already there's the 2030 vision on promoting rule of law. That could be 2030 International Legal Talent 2030. You could set up such a proposal, and then you could bring together all the law schools in Hong Kong and the two legal professions, as well as the 30 legal representatives on the election sub committee, and then we could give training to local and other training legal talents in other places. Now there could be training on common law and continental law, and then there could also be studies on international law, and so then we will be able to train the rule of law talents that are most needed all around the world, and they could help also to tell good stories about Hong Kong. So what do you think of this proposal?
Chief Executive, thank you, Ms. Khan. I fully agree with you. Steer and leadership are most important. To do it well, we need a strong leadership, and we must forge all forces and engage different sectors. I thank Ms. Khan for giving me the name. I think it will be most attractive to legal talents. International Legal Talent 2030 with a vision, but of course we can decide on the proper name later. I fully agree with Ms. Khan in strengthening our common law system and also legal law, yes. And as for mainland law, we may not have sufficient local talents for nurturing of talents familiar with the main law. Right now, we don't have, it is not our strength. What is your view on that, Ms. Khan? Now, based on not very complete information, now for training in common law, we have, now for mainland courts, we have a master degree program in our local law schools. But for training in mainland law, opportunities are limited. Now, for international legal talents, they should understand the common law system under one country, two systems. I believe the mainland would also like to better understand the advantages of the common law system. Since we are training international legal talents in Hong Kong, we should enhance our understanding of mainland laws, the commercial and also civil laws, and also laws, intellectual property, and also laws relevant to our position as eight major international centers in the world. Chief Executive, I think Ms. Khan was suggesting that we can invite mainland experts, legal experts, to come to Hong Kong if we are to be a training base, and that can form a strong force for us. Yes, not to receive training here. I think even the trainers can come from the mainland and from other parts of the world, and together with our local talents. Mr. Holden Chow, thank you. I speak on how we can build Hong Kong into a training center for legal talents. Even before the epidemic, there were foreign ministry people from the mainland who came to Hong Kong to train. Now we have the Asia international law, and so that the Asia and African country can send people to Hong Kong for training, and that is the Asian African Legal Consultative Organization. Now, with the support of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we can organize international training focusing on Belt and Road countries and countries that are friendly to the country. The government officials and diplomatic officials can come to Hong Kong for training in international law. They can be junior diplomatic personnel, or they can be outstanding law students. But if they have been trained in Hong Kong, we are building a proper network. If we have proper training of diplomatic officials from other parts of the world, then we are building up a brand name for ourselves, and people will come to Hong Kong automatically. Hong Kong will come to them automatically if they want training in international law, and this will echo President Xi's requirement that we can work in foreign-related affairs in terms of law in a coordinated manner. Chief Executive, I thank Mr. Chow for his suggestion. I'm sure we will be supported in the Belt and Road Initiative. Now we want to have connections in systems and legal systems and in talents. If we are to develop into an international training hub of legal talents, I'm sure that will be in line with the Belt and Road Initiative. I'm sure we will have support from the country. Now, my question is, when we want to promote training, now we have to take into account our position to develop into 8 major centers. Is it good to put it into context? For instance, IMP Center and also INT Center. I think the legal issues are involved. Mr. Holden Chow, thank you. If we are to be an international center, we have to encourage these international legal bodies to be domiciled in Hong Kong. For instance, take the UK's example. They no longer have container terminals, but they specialize in maritime law, insurance, and also leasing of vessels. Such offices are stationed in London. So that's why London is a world maritime or shipping center. There are, we have the Hague Convention, and they've got a branch office in Hong Kong, and UN International Trade Committee. There is a common arrangement with our government, and Mr. Horace Zheng recently visited Italy. Unitrol has got its headquarters in Italy. We invited them to be our main guests during Hong Kong Week in Hong Kong. I got acquainted with them, and our Deputy Secretary for Justice, Mr. Zheng, went to Italy. Hopefully, they can come to Hong Kong to set up an office here. If that materializes, then we can further enhance the status of Hong Kong as an international legal center. We will help in lobbying these organizations. Hopefully, they can set up an office in Hong Kong. Now, these are international organizations. If they can be stationed in Hong Kong, then we can really realize our position as 8 important centers in Hong Kong. Ms. Maggie Chen, on legal talents, I have some suggestions. We must train legal talents in modern days. We can have double degree programs covering law and AI and biotechnology and digital economy, etc., to suit the needs of the legal needs of a new age, so that Hong Kong can be a training base for international law, and we can promote our arbitration law. We should encourage different arbitration bodies to set up offices in Hong Kong that will enhance the systematic design of the mainland arbitration services. Hong Kong can also give full play to its advantage as an international dispute resolution center, so that we can be a very unique place. We should also unleash the potential of small and medium-sized law firms in Hong Kong. I focus on this sector because in Hong Kong, 90% of our law firms are small and medium-sized. We should focus on the unique characteristics of these law firms so that they can unleash their potential. we can unleash the potential of most of the law firms in Hong Kong as double degree programs and to couple law and other areas. I think this is a very good suggestion. I will consider it very carefully. Regarding developing Hong Kong into an arbitration and dispute resolution service center, this is among one of the 8 important centers Hong Kong is going to become, and this is in line with our direction of development. That means we can give fuller play to our strengths in this regard. When it comes to assistance to small and medium-sized law firms, I understand that the DFJ has done a lot, including helping small and medium-sized law firms to develop further. We have examination for local lawyers so that after taking examination, they can practice in 9 cities in the GBA, and also developing partnership between local law firms and mainland law firms. The rules have been relaxed. This is all because of continual promotion and communication between Hong Kong and these authorities. I'm sure we can provide more training so that our lawyers can be more familiar with court proceedings in the mainland, and they can be more familiar with commercial and civil laws of the mainland. This can help small and medium-sized law firms to tap into the GBA market. Ms. Maggie Chen talked about small and medium-sized law firms. Same as small and medium-sized enterprises, the government has got schemes to support them. So whether we are talking about the law firms as well as the work being taken forward by the DFJ, if small and medium-sized law firms fall into the definition of small and medium-sized enterprises, then I'm sure the various subsidies being offered by the Economic and Commercial Development Bureau will still apply. For instance, we have a fund to promote SMEs, and we have a BUD fund. We have a financing scheme for SMEs. We have BUD fund for them to for upgrade and transform to develop their brand name, etc. We will provide the relevant information to Ms. Maggie Chen. And as for the financing scheme for SMEs, law firms are also qualified to apply under the fund. We are very happy to receive views from the sector because this is our objective, and Ms. Maggie Chen can help small and medium-sized law firms to benefit from those funds. Chief Executive, please deliver a concluding speech. Thank you, President. I'm grateful to members for their views, questions, and also the interaction with me. This is the second interactive exchange session, and we can continue to leverage the power and value of patriots administering Hong Kong. I'm grateful to members for their views on the 3 issues I have set out for today's session. I will develop these ideas with my team for further administration. My last year of experience tells me that there are 3 important elements to give full play to the value of patriots administering Hong Kong, and that is we must stand united, we must forge consensus, and we must have a systemic view of the macro picture. Now, in the 20th National Congress report, there is a and elaboration. I mentioned that last time there are three major areas. First, there are five important relations, and that is part and the whole, now and the future, micro and macro, the major and secondary conflicts, and special and ordinary relations. And secondly, when we look at things, we must have a historic perspective. We must know the true nature from looking at the phenomenon. That is, we must not be superficial in looking at things. We have to judge from the surface the nature of a matter. For instance, donation of organs. We have seen a spate of withdrawals, but after investigation, there were fake withdrawals. So from this phenomenon, we know the nature. People may be using this to stir up conflicts in society. And thirdly, we must look from a strategic perspective. We must innovative and we must have a bottom line thinking. I hope when patriots and minister Hong Kong, we must grasp this important five relations. From the phenomenon of a matter, we should find out the nature of the matter. We should use innovative ideas and have a bottom line thinking so that we can build a better Hong Kong. Thank you, President. Thank you, members. The Chief Executive's interactive exchange question and answer session ends here. The Chief Executive now leaves the chamber. Members, stand up, please. The Chief Executive's interactive exchange question and answer session ends now. Council sitting now resumes.